Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the Geekom X16 Pro laptop. This is probably the absolute worst time to launch a new product line, but Geekom, who typically makes mini PCs, is now dipping their toes into the laptop market. And this one isn't too bad. This is their 16-inch version. They have a 14-inch as well. And the big deal with these is that they're super lightweight, but they have a huge battery. And so I found it to be a pretty nice device, but there are some gotchas to think about. So we're going to dive into this laptop in just a second, but I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that Geekom sent this to the channel free of charge. However, no other compensation was received, and they have not reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this laptop is all about. Now, the price point on this comes in at $1,349 at the moment. Of course, that is subject to change given all the volatility in memory pricing, but that was the price that this was selling for this morning when I started working on the video here. Now, inside, this one has a Core Ultra 9 185H processor, so this is the higher end version of this laptop. There's also a Core Ultra 5 125H version that costs a little bit less. It's available in the 16-inch, which is what we have here, but there's also a 14. The 14 has an OLED display. This one is running with an IPS LCD. And speaking of the display, it is a nice 16-inch display here, 2560 by 1600 at a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. And this runs at a 120 Hertz refresh rate. The display brightness runs at 400 nits, which isn't bad, and it supports 100% of sRGB. So not a bad display here for the price point, and it looks really nice and doesn't have any real bad angles to it either. So it's a nice big display here. You've got 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM on board, and this one ships with a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD. The RAM is soldered on. It's 7500 megahertz DDR5 RAM, so you can't upgrade the memory, but 32 gigs is nice and generous, and the NVMe SSD can be upgraded down the road if you need to do that. The big story here, of course, is its lightweight. It is 2.8 pounds or 1.27 kilograms. That is very light for a large laptop like this. And it also has a very large battery inside, which surprisingly doesn't add all that much to the weight. So the battery is running at 74,924 milliwatt hours, and that will give you about 12 to 13 hours of basic usage on this with the display brightness down. Now, the build quality on this feels quite nice. It is an all-metal design. It feels very reminiscent of some of their mini PCs, which tend to be higher quality in the industrial design department versus others. As you can see here, I can also lift the display up with a single hand. That is something I always look for when we're trying to figure out how well something is built. If they put some thought into balancing things properly, generally there's a lot of other good engineering decisions that were made. So for a lightweight laptop here, it's nice that a single hand can get you up and running. There is a fingerprint reader in the power button. There is not a facial recognition feature, however. My only gripe on this is the keyboard and trackpad. The keyboard is spongy. It's not awful, but I've certainly typed on better. And it does have, though, a full number pad here, and it's backlit. So it's not the best, but it's not the worst I've used. The trackpad, though, is among the worst I've used, and it feels a lot like some of the trackpads I find in the really cheap computers out there. You can't click anything up here unless you use the tap to click feature in Windows, which I always set off accidentally. So the physical click requires you to click down here, and it stops clicking about the midpoint here. So this trackpad is just not up to par with others you'll see at this price point, or even lower sometimes. There's also a barrier here in between the left and the right click, so you can't click anything in the middle, and then the right click is over here. So this could definitely have been a better trackpad, and this is one area where I think they cheapened out a bit. There is a webcam here at the top. They do have a physical shutter on there. Not a great webcam either. It is 2 megapixels. As you can see, it looks okay. It'll shoot 1080p at 30 frames per second. Certainly adequate for your conference calls and stuff, but you're not going to be doing any video production on this. And of course, there are laptops out there from major brands that have nicer webcams on board. Now, you've got a decent port selection on this one. On the left-hand side, we've got a USB Type-C port here for charging. This will also support 10 gigabit per second USB devices. I don't think this outputs display, though. This port is a full-size HDMI 2.0 port, so you can connect external displays that way. And then this port, unfortunately not labeled, is a USB 4.0 40 gigabit per second port. This is full service, so you can get display out, data devices in, and of course power can go through this too if you choose this port instead. So this might be what you connect up to your docking station, for example. And because this is USB 4, it is compatible with Thunderbolt devices, so it's nice to have that on board. On the other side, you've got a micro SD card slot here, and you've got two USB-A ports that run at 10 gigabits per second, along with a headphone jack. Your speakers are on the bottom here, stereo speakers left and right. They sound okay, not a lot of range of sound to them, not a lot of deep bass or anything, but because the case has some room in it, the speakers do have some volume to them. So great for, I think, watching YouTube videos or doing some podcasts and conference calls, but of course audiophiles will probably want to connect up speakers either to the headphone port or through Bluetooth. Now the Wi-Fi performance here feels pretty good. It's got a Wi-Fi 6E radio on board, not Wi-Fi 7, but off of my Wi-Fi 7 access point, which of course is compatible with Wi-Fi 6 and back, I was getting about 800 megabits per second downstream, and it was pushing over a gigabit upstream on my multi-gig network here. So the Wi-Fi feels pretty solid on this laptop. So why don't we take a look now and see how it performs. Now the laptop will ship with a fully licensed version of Windows 11 Pro. The only thing that came pre-installed on this was the Geekom PC Manager, which is actually a pretty nice little application here for quickly changing between your working modes. So for example, I just went from performance to balance, but I could have it operate quieter and with better battery efficiency if I drop it down into the power saving mode. So you can very quickly jump around to a few key features here, including your speaker settings along with your ambient voice removal for the microphone. So a couple quick things that you can grab pretty quickly that interface with the drivers. There is an optimization option here, but all this gives you is your PC specifications, so not useful there. They do, though, have something called the PC Cloner, which allows you to move a PC and all of its data from one Windows device to the other, provided you've got a Windows 10 computer you are upgrading from, so some useful things there. Let's take a look at some web browsing here to kick things off. We'll visit the nasa.gov homepage. As you can see, things are super fast and responsive, as they should be with a PC with this powerful processor inside. So I saw no issues here for doing basic work. And YouTube performance at 4K 60 frames per second is quite good. I had a couple of drop frames right when it started up, but after that it has been rock solid. So I think if you are streaming Netflix and other things, it's going to be fine for entertainment as well. And on the browserbench.org speedometer benchmark test, we got a score of 29.4, which is right in line with other computers in its peer group. So let's take a look at a little video editing now with DaVinci Resolve. This is a 4K 60 project. I'm going to drop in a cross dissolve here, and we will hit play and see how fast it renders that up. So pretty quick, as you would expect for a basic project here. I can replace it with a different one if I can get the trackpad to cooperate here. And as you can see, it's all able to react very quickly to simple types of edits. It's when you do the more advanced effects that things get a little more complicated. So it'll take a little longer to do an effect like the one I just dragged on. That's one of the limitations of an onboard GPU on a processor. But for basic stuff like making videos for this channel, this would be more than adequate for that. The higher end stuff, color grading, special effects, all of that will need a more powerful GPU, either in a more powerful computer or attached through the Thunderbolt port here. So let's move on now to gaming. We've got Cyberpunk 2077 running here at the lowest settings at 1080p. The output is about 40 to 45 frames per second, give or take. You certainly have a good amount of CPU horsepower with this chip, but the GPU is not quite up to where the newer Intel chips are these days, but still a very playable experience for casual gamers. You're just not going to get the 60 frames per second that you might get from a gaming laptop, but otherwise pretty decent gaming performance for casual users. And if we take a look at the 3D Mark Timespy benchmark test, you can see we got a score of 4,128. This puts it very much on par with a gaming laptop from Lenovo, that Legion 5 there, that we reviewed back in 2020 that had a GTX 1650 Ti GPU on board. So that's about the equivalent of the graphics horsepower that this Intel chip can provide on a single die. So that should give you a good idea as to what you can expect out of this. So certainly games from the 2020 era on back will run nicely here. Some of the newer games will struggle to hit higher frame rates, but of course you can always reduce resolution and the graphical details to get more frames per second out of it. And on the 3D Mark stress test, we got a passing grade, as you can see here, of 99.2%. CPU temperature at the end of the test was 57 degrees Celsius or 134.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means you're not going to see all that much thermal throttling here. However, when the system is placed under load, when you're playing a game or doing some video editing or maybe hitting a higher end website, you will hear the fan kick on. And during gameplay, as we were just running that benchmark, the fan noise on this was up to the levels you sometimes hear on gaming laptops. So it's got a loud fan, and even on its lower settings, you will definitely hear it. So if you are distracted by fan noise, this might be a consideration here. You can also put it into its balance mode, which will kick the fan on less often, but that of course comes at the cost of performance. So fan noise here is one of the downsides along with that trackpad. All right, one last thing to take a look at here, and that is its Linux performance. We are running the latest version of Ubuntu here. Everything got detected properly, including the video, the audio, the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi. It all seems like a pretty decent Linux experience here, so if you did want to run a different operating system on this device, you should be able to do so. And one of the advantages of having a slightly older Intel chip on board like the Core Ultra 9 this one has is that a lot of the driver issues and other compatibility issues have long been resolved if there were any. So for Linux users, this might be a fun device to have in your bag. So all in, this is a very nice laptop from Geekom. Unfortunately, due to the memory crisis, prices are much higher than they should be. And I suspect this would have been a real hot ticket budget laptop if the memory crisis wasn't driving everything up right now. I like a lot on this machine, including its industrial design, the display, the performance, the battery life. But the trackpad is really killing it for me. I am not digging this trackpad. It's one of the worst I've tested in quite some time on a laptop. So that is definitely holding me back from being more enthusiastic about it. But beyond that, it is a solid performer. And if you were looking for something with this level of performance, maybe you can get used to the trackpad. One other gotcha, of course, is the fan noise. So hopefully for the second iteration of this product, we get a better trackpad and a quieter fan. But beyond that, it's a very nicely performing device. That will do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.